Over a period of just under 13 months, you killed 7 fragile babies and attempted to kill 6 others. Some of your victims were only a day or a few days old. All were extremely vulnerable. They were in a hospital where others were striving to provide them with dedicated medical and nursing care.
Welcome to another episode of Grim Riddles, where this week we have an insightful discussion on a case that has recently captured the headlines and stirred conversations in the United Kingdom. In this segment, we're delving into the intriguing and involving narrative surrounding the conviction of nurse Lucy Letby for the murder of 7 newborn babies and the attempted murder of another 6. As we explore the details of this case, it's important to note that as of August 2023, this story is still unfolding. Given its current prominence in the news, we're here to try and provide you with an overview of the case's key aspects, shedding light on the allegations, trial proceedings, and any post-conviction developments. We'll discuss the mystery surrounding Letby's actions, the arguments presented during her trial, and the subsequent investigations that have come to light, from the uncertainties around her motivations to the impact on the medical community and the families affected. We aim to provide a comprehensive view of this evolving story. As we reflect on the intricate legal proceedings and unfolding narratives, let us pause to honour and remember the innocent babies who tragically lost their lives. Our thoughts extend to the families who have endured immeasurable trauma and loss, and whose grief will remain a steadfast companion throughout their lives. So let's begin our journey through this captivating case, exploring its nuances and complexities. First, let's go into the background of Lucy Letby. She was born on January the 4th, 1990, in the quiet cathedral city of Hereford in England. During her formative years, she attended Aylestone School and later pursued her education at Hereford Sixth Form College, after which she enrolled at the University of Chester to study nursing. An interesting note is that she also took on the role of a student nurse during her academic pursuits. Over a span of 3 years, she completed placements at Liverpool Women's Hospital and the Countess of Chester Hospital. As an only child, Letby stands as a pioneer within her family, being the first to venture into higher education. Her graduation ceremony took place in September 2011, a moment undoubtedly cherished by her father, a retired finance manager, and her mother, an accounts clerk. In 2012, Letby commenced her professional journey as a registered nurse within the neonatal unit of the Countess of Chester Hospital. In a profile penned in 2013, she elaborated on her role at the hospital, highlighting her responsibility for the care of a diverse range of infants requiring varying levels of support. She expressed genuine satisfaction in witnessing both their developmental progress and being able to offer support to their families. Notably, she actively participated in a fundraising campaign for the establishment of a new neonatal unit within the hospital. Letby also undertook training placements at Liverpool's Women's Hospital, first in late 2012 and subsequently in early 2015. In June 2015, a seasoned consultant and lead neonatalist at the Countess of Chester Hospital began to investigate a puzzling situation. During that month, the neonatal unit faced a series of tragic incidents, 4 collapses resulting in the heartbreaking loss of 3 lives. What's especially intriguing, or rather perplexing, is that all of these occurrences happened during shifts when a nurse named Lucy Letby was on duty. Now, you might naturally anticipate a swift response to this series of sudden infant deaths. However, here's where matters get a bit intricate. The consultants did indeed bring these distressing deaths to the attention of the hospital's Mortality and Morbidity Review Committee, dedicated to such serious matters. However, here's the twist. Instead of classifying these incidents as serious occurrences involving unexpected deaths, the committee labelled them as medication errors. And the distinction is noteworthy. The former categorization could have triggered a more immediate and comprehensive investigation. But there's more to uncover. The ward manager, not content to remain passive about these deaths and the apparent indifference to them, decided to take matters into her own hands. Leap forward to October 2015, and she stumbled upon something quite intriguing. Letby seemed to be a common denominator during all of these unusual infant deaths. She shared her findings with the lead neonatologist, who, alongside other consultants, had expressed concerns about Letby's role with the nursing director. In early 2016, the consultants initiated a comprehensive review, delving into 5 unexplained deaths and collapses within the unit. And what emerged as a recurring factor? Again, Lucy Letby's presence was. This report eventually made its way to the desk of the hospital's medical director, who later engaged in discussions with the lead neonatologist in May 2016. However, here's where the story takes a very unexpected turn. The executive team chose to perceive these incidents as mere coincidences. They felt that the evidence lacked the necessary weight to warrant immediate action. Driven by concerns about the hospital's reputation, they opted against involving the police. So what alternative path did they follow? Well, they enlisted the expertise of the Royal College of Pediatrics and Child Health, the RCPCH, for an independent review. Their focus wasn't on Letby's actions or even the specific deaths. Rather, it centered on the broader service provided by the hospital. While the RCPCH couldn't conclusively explain the rise in mortality rates, they did identify issues related to staffing levels and senior coverage. Their recommendation was to delve into individual case reviews for each death. Amidst this turmoil, Nurse Letby was left far from untouched. In September 2016, she formally expressed her grievances about being shuffled around, and surprisingly, in January 2017, the hospital's board upheld her complaint. Significantly, they extended a new position to her at the Alder Hey Children's Hospital, along with additional support for her professional development. Their report left no room for ambiguity. Their intent was to shield Letby from the accusations. Fast forward then to December 2016, when the hospital's chief executive sat down with Letby and her parents. Apologies were in order for the allegations against her, along with assurances that the implicated doctors would face consequences. A formal letter of apology from the consultants followed in February 2017. As time marched on, concerns about Letby's involvement didn't diminish. Consultants turned to the regional neonatal lead for advice, ultimately leading to their engagement with the Cheshire Police Constabulary in April 2017. The public announcement of the new investigation in May 2017 indicated that the decision to involve the police was with the aim of investigating any potential unusual causes of death within the unit. In the inquiry, Letby was accused of deliberately harming newborn babies in various ways, including by injecting air into their bloodstreams and administering air or milk into their stomachs via nasogastric tubes. She was also accused of poisoning infants by adding insulin to intravenous feeds and interfering with breathing tubes. The trial phase, which commenced at Manchester Crown Court on October 10, 2022, was presided over by Mr. Justice Goss. Anticipated to span 6 months, it was marked by Letby's plea of not guilty to 7 counts of murder and 15 counts of attempted murder involving 10 infants. The trial drew the presence of Letby's parents and the families of the victims. The children at the heart of the charges were anonymized in reports, being referred to as Child A through Child Q. As Helen Pidd from The Guardian newspaper highlighted, the press maintained an unusual degree of secrecy around the identities of the 17 babies and the 9 colleagues of Letby who provided evidence. This was a level of privacy rarely witnessed outside contexts involving national security. The press discretion was upheld by Mrs. Justice Steyn, who 2 years prior to the criminal trial prohibited the identification of living children until they reached their 18th birthday. While parents sought protection for their identifying information, including occupation details, Justice Steyn recognized that one parent's profession as a physician was pertinent to their medical expertise, and this disclosure wouldn't make the parent publicly recognizable. Some colleagues expressed a reluctance to testify without anonymity, particularly a doctor reportedly involved with Letby, but the judge deemed securing testimony from colleagues more important than their public recognition. According to the prosecutor, Letby cast a constant malevolent presence within the hospital's neonatal unit. It was brought to light that Letby had searched for the parents of several babies on Facebook, even sending a sympathy card to one family. The prosecutor alleged that Letby had introduced air into the bloodstream of 2 victims and employed insulin to commit other murders. Shockingly, one victim's mother recounted catching Letby in the act of trying to harm her baby, with Letby, upon being interrupted, imploring, "Trust me, I'm a nurse." The trial also unveiled an instance where Letby was reprimanded multiple times for entering a room where the grieving parents of a baby she was accused of murdering were present. In Letby's defense, her lawyer portrayed her as a dedicated nurse in a system that failed, asserting that the prosecution's case rested on the assumption of deliberate harm combined with the coincidental presence of Letby on certain occasions. The lawyer contended that a massive failure of care within a bustling hospital's neonatal unit couldn't be attributed to a single individual. Notably, Letby's colleagues denied the use of insulin at the hospital and argued that the extraordinary bleeding in a deceased baby boy, allegedly killed by Letby, could have been linked to a rigid wire or tube. Another point of contention arose around a surviving baby who reportedly received an extremely high insulin dose. During the trial, texts exchanged by Letby with her friends were presented in court. These messages touched upon the baby deaths, with Letby describing them as sad and cruel and heartbreaking. She emphasized that the true tragedy lay with the parents who had to leave the hospital without their babies. In one instance, Letby admitted that escorting child A to the mortuary was the hardest thing she ever had to do. A pediatrician from the Countess of Chester Hospital recounted that he and other clinicians had previously voiced concerns about Letby, but were met with discouragement from hospital superiors who urged them not to make a fuss. On the fourth day of the trial, the prosecution introduced a handwritten note attributed to Letby. The note read, "I am evil, I did this," and went on to suggest that she killed them on purpose due to her inability to care for them. The defense contended that this note was an anguished outpouring born out of fear and despair when Letby realized the gravity of the accusations against her. They argued that the note was penned during a period of employment-related issues, including a grievance procedure with the NHS Trust. Additional notes from Letby were also brought to court, expressing her frustration at being denied access to the neonatal unit. In May 2023, Letby herself provided testimony to the court, asserting that she was made to feel inadequate, but that she had meant no harm. She offered insight into the note's origin, explaining, "I felt at the time that if I'd done something wrong, I must be such an evil, awful person. I'd somehow been incompetent and had done something wrong which had affected those babies." The allegations against her took a toll on her mental well-being, causing her to question her self-confidence and leading to her isolation from friends on the unit. Her testimony was accompanied by tears. The trial's proceedings showcased a complex web of evidence, emotions, and legal argumentation, making it an evolving story that demands careful attention. Although Letby's motives remain shrouded in mystery, her trial brought forth several speculative theories put forth by the prosecution. These conjectures attempted to shed light on the reasons behind her alleged actions. One line of reasoning suggested that boredom might have played a role, while another posited that she derived a morbid thrill from the unfolding tragedies and perhaps even relished the notion of playing God. The prosecution painted a picture for the jury, asserting that she exerted control over the situations, deriving satisfaction from the events while eerily predicting their outcomes. Another intriguing possibility that the prosecution presented was tied to the notion of gaining attention. They suggested that the killings might have been a bid to capture the interest of a married doctor with whom Letby was allegedly in a secretive relationship. This doctor would be called upon when an infant's condition rapidly deteriorated. However, Letby staunchly denied all these suppositions, including any involvement with the said doctor. Following the verdict, The Guardian in its reporting remarked that the closest prosecution came to what could be deemed a confession were the post-it notes discovered in Letby's handbag after her arrest. Among these handwritten notes was a striking entry that read, "I killed them on purpose because I'm not good enough to care for them." Letby, in her defense during the trial, vehemently contested the idea that this note constituted a confession. She maintained that it merely reflected her emotional turmoil during the investigative process. Some friends and family still don't believe she is guilty, with one friend, Dawn, who was at school with Letby, stating in an interview with the BBC, "Unless Lucy turned around and said I'm guilty, I will never believe that she's guilty. We know she couldn't have done anything that she's accused of, so without a doubt we stand by her. I grew up with Lucy, and not a single thing that I've ever seen or witnessed of Lucy would let me for a moment believe she is capable of the thing she's accused of. It is the most out-of-character accusation that you could ever put against Lucy. Think of your most kind, gentle, soft friend and think they're being accused of harming babies." She revealed that Letby had always dreamed of becoming a nurse after suffering a difficult birth. Dawn added, "It was always her aspiration, her dream, to become a nurse and to help babies. She was very grateful to the nurses who helped save her life. She feels that's what she was called to do, to help children who might have been born in similar circumstances. Dawn claimed officers involved in the case were trying to build a case to find someone culpable to find someone to blame, as she maintained Letby's innocence. In a pre-sentencing statement read to the court, the mother of child A, who was murdered by Letby, and child B, who she attempted to kill, said, "You thought it was your right to play God with our children's lives." She said after the death of child A, a boy, they feared for his twin sister and made sure a member of the family was always with her. But we made a mistake and started to believe that what happened to the first child was a tragic event that couldn't be stopped. She added, "Little did we know you were waiting for us to leave so you could attack the one thing that gave us a reason to carry on in life." In the statement made on behalf of her and her partner, she said, "Maybe you thought by doing this you would be remembered forever, but I want you to know my family will never think of you again. From this day, you are nothing." Letby's refusal to attend her sentencing was, according to the Justice Secretary, an insult to her victims' families. In his statement, Alex Chalk said she took the coward's approach, insulting her victims one last time by robbing their families of the chance to look her in the eye as the judge decided her fate. Cases like these make me even more determined to make sure the worst offenders attend court to face justice when ordered to by the judge. That's why we are looking at options to change the law at the earliest opportunity to ensure that in the silence that follows the clang of the prison gate, society's condemnation will be ringing in the prisoner's ears. During sentencing, the judge sentenced serial killer nurse Letby to stay in prison for the rest of her life.
You have no remorse. There are no mitigating factors. In their totality, the offences of murder and attempted murder were of exceptionally high seriousness, and just punishment, according to law, requires a whole life order. Lucy Letby, on each of the 7 offences of murder and the 7 offences of attempted murder, I sentence you to imprisonment for life.
A few days after sentencing, it was announced that the National Health Service's manager who ignored the serious concerns of doctors had been suspended due to the allegations made against her in court. A National Health Service England spokesman told The Telegraph, "We welcome the independent inquiry announced by the Department of Health and Social Care into the events at the Countess of Chester Hospital and will cooperate fully to help ensure all lessons are learnt." In light of information that has emerged during the trial of Lucy Letby and the announcement of the independent inquiry, the Northern Care Alliance has suspended Alison Kelly. Let's now talk about the investigations that are apparently going to be done as a result of the court's findings. The police are going to carry on with their investigation to figure out if Letby's actions went beyond what was initially uncovered. They are looking into some suspicious incidents involving around 30 other infants at the Countess of Chester Hospital. Letby also worked at Liverpool Women's Hospital in 2012 and 2015, and the police have decided to widen their scope and check all the cases involving newborns during her time at that hospital. At least one other family has received a call saying that their baby's case was part of this extensive investigation. The government then decided to step in and conduct an independent board of inquiry. They want to figure out how everything happened, the full circumstances around the deaths and incidents. They are particularly interested in how the concerns raised by doctors and nurses were dealt with at the time. This inquiry is not legally binding, meaning they can't force people to testify, and is only meant to shed light on what happened. Those in charge at the time of the incidents, like the medical director, the chief executive, and the nursing director, said they would all be cooperating fully with this inquiry. But the medical director retired in 2018, and the chief executive left in September 2018 after allegedly signing a binding confidentiality agreement with the trust. The representatives of the family do not agree with the witness statements being voluntary. They feel strongly that this inquiry needs the power to force witnesses to come forward. Because if it's not legally binding, then it kind of depends on people's willingness to come under scrutiny and share what they know at a public forum. Many people, including a former Secretary of State for Justice, a local Member of Parliament, and the chair of the House of Commons Health and Social Care Select Committee, feel that a proper public inquiry is necessary. They believe that it is the only way to really get a good grip on what happened. There were other reactions and calls for action. One of the doctors who had testified for the prosecution even suggested looking into the possibility of corporate manslaughter charges in connection to the Letby case. The Royal College of Paediatrics and Child Health welcomed the independent inquiry, thinking it is a chance to prevent anything like this from happening again. The chief nursing officer from NHS England, Dame Ruth May, agreed. She said they were totally committed to making sure nothing like this ever happened again. The British Medical Association, which speaks for doctors, thought there should be a way to hold NHS managers and healthcare administrators responsible for any mismanagement, in a similar way that the GMC, the General Medical Council, takes action against doctors who harm patients. So as you can see, things are going to get pretty intense after the trial. It's no longer just about Letby, it's now about understanding what went wrong and making sure it doesn't happen again. In the aftermath of Letby's conviction, the story continues to unfold with both complexity and uncertainty. As we've discussed, the case is far from over. There's the potential for an almost certain appeal, and the ongoing inquiries are expected to shed further light on the events surrounding this tragic set of incidents. Do you have any extra insights or thoughts on the case and/or her motives? Please let us know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching another video on Grim Riddles. If you enjoyed the video, please like and consider subscribing. It will really help our channel. Remember to keep your loved ones close and stay safe until the next time.